My name is Robert Chapman, and I am the Ward 3 Alderman for the City of Clinton, and this is the Board of Aldermen recap for November the 7th, 2023. We kicked off the meeting hearing from Department of Public Works Director Philip Lilly. He talked to us about the fall cleanup that occurred in October over on Northside Drive at the old Northside location. He said that over 10 tons of chemicals were collected during this time and properly disposed of, which goes to show the efforts that Philip and his crew are putting forth to decrease Clinton's carbon footprint. He did say that now that it's finally starting to rain, that the leaves will fall off the trees. He encourages you that if you are going to rake up your leaves, to put them in bags and to set them by the side by your trash cans. He said waste management will pick those up, and he discourages you from just raking or blowing your leaves out to the curb. When that happens and the rain does come, these leaves can clog our drains and our grates, which can cause problems in our sewers, increasing the chances of flooding on the streets and clogging those grates that lead to the sewer system. He also encouraged not to put limbs or leaves in ditches, but again, rather rake them up, put them in bags, and set them at the end of your street, and waste management will pick those up. He also gave us an update on the efficiency of their projects. He said they're completing 84% of the tickets that come in. And while that's a great number, Philip has a goal of 91%. So he said there's always areas to improve, and having this high goal of 91% is certainly an area that they're going to focus on. After we heard from Philip, I had the chance to recommend Rob Logan to the Planning and Zoning Board. If you don't know Rob, he is a great asset to the city with the history that he has in his professional life, and so I know that he'll serve the city well on the Planning and Zoning Board as we move forward. We got into the voting, and coming back up to the podium was Philip Lilly. During the budget hearings, he brought forth an idea of partnering with a group called Labor Finders. This group will allow us to contract out for certain projects and keeping our employees on projects that are long-term projects without interrupting their efficiency. Next, we voted to pay for emergency repairs that need to happen over by Storage City, which is near Broadway Drive. There was a leak that was too deep for the city to encounter, so Philip contracted with a group that could do that. This leak has nothing to do with any of the water repairs that have been made over on Broadway over the last year, but the repair occurred and we voted to pay for that. Similarly, we voted on paying for a drainage repair that happened over on McRaven Road. There's a large metal pipe that is rusting out, and it also is at a depth that is beyond our reach. So contracting with a company that has this expertise is beneficial for the city. Part of this project was they are converting the metal pipe to a concrete pipe, which would last longer and not have the possibility to rust out in the future. Another thing about having Philip in that position is he's very conscientious of the financial aspects of his position. Currently, the city has a dump truck, a 2002 model, that has some issues with it. He's compared the price of buying a new dump truck versus simply replacing the engine in the current one that we have. Philip recommended that we just replace the engine in the 2002 model because everything else on the dump truck is very much in working order. So we voted unanimously to do that. The next three items presented to us are in reference to House Bill 603. First, we voted to rename a checking account in reference to this. Next, we voted on an MOU with the Mississippi DFA. This is going to allow us to move forward with Phase 2 of the 80-20 project, or everything that's going on over by Mississippi College. There's a few people who feel that project has stalled, but I can tell you it has not. By voting on this MOU, it allows us to accept the $8 million for this second phase of the project and move forward with it. And finally, because we're utilizing all of the accounts that we have open, we don't have another account that we can rename, so we had to vote to open a new account with Bank Plus in reference to this House Bill 603. We then voted to vacate a portion of a right-of-way that the city has. It's a small portion, maybe 25 square feet, but there's a homeowner that's wanting to expand part of the house, and by doing so, would need to push their drive over just a few feet. This would move that portion of the drive into an unused right-of-way. So we voted to vacate this small portion of the right-of-way to the homeowner so they can continue with their plans. Again, this is a portion of a right-of-way here in the city that we do not use as a right-of-way, and so we felt that this was the best method to move forward. On the flip side of that, we did vote to accept a dedication of a right-of-way from the Homeowners Association in Cascades. There are a few cul-de-sacs that were previously private drives that they wanted to hand over to the city. Those cul-de-sacs were not up to code, so we worked with the HOA over at Cascades, and they paid to have these areas brought up to code. Once it was brought up to code and paved, they dedicated it to us, and so now the city will maintain those cul-de-sacs. We approved the final payment for the pavement improvement projects that have been happening around the city. One thing that we were informed of about this was that 3 extra streets were paved that were not previously on the list. So that's making those dollars stretch a little bit further. There's a house on Monroe Street that is wanting to have an accessory building built and painted, as well as their home structure painted. So we voted to approve that. We voted to approve the signage for Bloom X, which is a new spa that is going over there by Waffle House. We also voted to approve signage for the Cafezinho's new location over on Highway 80 by Chick-fil-A. And finally, we voted to approve the signage for a church that will be located on Northside Drive over by Hunt Cliff. It's always great to see repurposing of buildings happening across the city, and Methodist Rehab is moving into the old Pizza Hut location over by Pine Lake. One thing I always laugh about being in the city is it depends on which old Pizza Hut location you're talking about, because there's been a few. This is the location over by the South Point building and by Pine Lake. At this location, they will do physical therapy, and it will be a great addition to the city. We heard from MTV Solutions. This is a company that has power trucks that are parked over on Spring Ridge Road. There are some updates they're going to do to the fencing around it so that you can't see all of the power trucks that are parked there, but we definitely welcome them to the city. We updated the commercial farming ordinance aspects to the city. This involves future hog farms, poultry farms, and feedlots. This amendment will mirror the animal control ordinances that are present in our residential estates. This has been fairly long and fairly conscientious over the last year. I think this is probably one of the best moves we made. It does not affect the current agricultural land, and it gives the board a say in any future commercial animal property. We also amended our sewer ordinance that deals with I&I. Of course, I had to ask what that was. That's inflow and infiltration. When this runoff or I&I enters our sewers, it can affect the efficiency of the system. What this amendment does is it allows the violator to have 90 days to fix the problem. If it's not fixed after that first 90 days, we will issue a second 90-day fix. And after 180 days, if the problem is not corrected, then water service will be cut off to that location. As a board, we all agreed that 180 days is more than enough time to fix any kind of issue that is dealing with I&I, and looking out for the city is our number one goal. We closed out the night by hiring 3 new individuals. One is an administrative individual. We also hired a certified police officer and a non-certified part-time dispatcher with the police department. I'm certainly happy to be back giving these updates, and I promise that I will be back on a more consistent basis. If you see me out and about, please stop and say hello. Keep looking out for each other. Take care of your neighbor, and I appreciate your time.